Hola, muy buenas. So a short presentation here on mnemonics or mnemonic devices, which are really memory tricks. And you can see how memory seems to have something to do with the word mnemonic, and it does. An example, the visible light portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. To remember longer wavelength to shorter wavelength, they need to come in the right order, the colors. So a guy named Roy, middle initial G, last name Biv, Roy G. Biv, helps you remember the order that the colors come in: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. The important part was from longer wavelength to shorter wavelength. That's the point there, is to remember the order the colors come in when you split also white light into its component parts. You get the rainbow. The Great Lakes of North America. Holmes is supposed to help you remember these lakes: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior. But they go like this. They go right here: Huron, Ontario, over here Michigan, down here Erie, up here Superior. Holmes doesn't really help you remember where they go exactly. It helps you name them. Name the Great Lakes. For Centro America, starting with Mexico, how to name the countries but also place them on a map. This would help you better place them from north to south. Starting with Mexico, M, but this is going to be a sentence. My grandmother, Betty, has, going towards the south, has every non-contagious plague. Sounds very strange. My grandmother, Betty, has every non-contagious plague. That MGBHENCP is supposed to give you the first letter of every country as a clue, going from north to south, so that you could remember, well, if I had the first letter, could I remember? Probably Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama. Panama should have an accent on the A at the end. El Salvador is not Ecuador. That's the tricky part there. Ions. This is from chemistry. I remember in high school chemistry. Ions are when an atom has a different number of protons and electrons. They can be positive or negative. Cations are positive, anions are negative. Fine. Well, these are not X signs that I'm drawing on Garfield here. They're plus signs for positive, because he is Garfield the Plussy Cat. What? Garfield the Plussy Cat. Only thing this does is help you remember that he's a cat. Cations are positive. It actually comes from Greek. Kata is like fewer, something like that. So it has fewer electrons, actually makes it positive. Whatever. Garfield the Plussy Cat means that cations are positive. That's all you need from that trick. The music clef, I know this from piano, the bass clef, when the note is not on the line, not here on the line, when it's in between the line in the spaces, start with that. You get the musical note A, comes first, down here, and then C, and then E, and then G in between the spaces. So it could be all cows eat grass, all cows eat grass. Or you could insert another sentence there to help you remember the notes. And in the G clef, they're actually two lower than below. So F, and the next space is A, the next space is C, and the top space is E. You don't need a sentence because that's the word face. So you start with in the spaces. There's also mnemonics to remember when the note comes on the line. Mnemonics in language acquisition, when you're learning a new language like Espanol, can take things you know from your first language and creatively associate them with new sounds and new words, anything that's hard to remember in another language. For example, the word tent in Hebrew, I don't know how transcribing it is very above what I know, but I asked after I looked this up on Wikipedia, and that is tent in Hebrew. Okay, but I do know how to say it. It's ohel. The word in Hebrew is ohel. And how would you remember that ohel means tent? Well, like this, for example. This becomes a little story. Oh hell, there's a skunk in my tent. What? Well, you're trying to remember a tent, and you're trying to remember that oh hell is how you say it in Hebrew. Now, skunk has nothing to do with tent directly, although it's part of the story. It has nothing to do with Hebrew. But if you create this story, oh hell is what you would say when you see a skunk in your tent. Sounds just like the word in Hebrew, oh hell. So if you remember that story, there was a skunk in my tent, and I said, oh hell, then you remember how to say tent in Hebrew. I'll bet you if I ask you in the very near future, how do you say tent in Hebrew? you'll remember. So the mnemonic works. Bosque. If you didn't know that bosque means the forest in Spanish, you're thinking like, oh, it starts with F. No, it doesn't. It's different. It's bosque. If you do know bosque, then you don't need a mnemonic. But if you don't know it, a student gave me this one. I saw my boss in the woods and I was like, ¿qué? I think everyone knows that K with an accent like this, the word K, means what? So I saw my boss in the woods. Bosque is the woods, the forest. And I was like, K? Oh, so the forest is bosque. It works. So as an assignment, create a mnemonic device, a memory trick, to help remember the meaning of these words in Spanish. If you already know that earth means tierra, then you don't need one. You don't need a trick, but play the role of teacher. You're trying to help someone remember, and they can't remember exactly right. They're like eartho. No, the earth is tierra. You could use a cognate. There are many that come from Latin, but think of a trick, something creative to help them remember that earth means tierra. Humo is smoke. Amenazar is to threaten. Derramar is to spill. Aumentar is to increase. If the mnemonic works for you, then it works. That's the ultimate measure. You can be very creative with them. But again, if you already know what some of these words are, create one just to try it and see if you can get 5. Vale? Ya está.